Alrighty, folks. Okay. Let's get some music going. Let's jump into this. Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is VooDoo Val, and I'm going to be your host this morning for challenge number 7. Number 7, y'all, of the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I'm super pumped for today. It's going to be super fun. Welcome in Frank and Andreas. General Kenobi, hello there. Let's see. Mercurial, welcome in. Paula, Andreas, Robert, Steve, Festus, Casaboom, Becca, Tim, Susan, Sean, Annika, save your work, Ted, Afroja. It is good to see all of you folks this morning. Thank you all for joining me. If you are wondering who I'm greeting in the chat because you don't see all these folks in your chat, you are probably over on YouTube. Please come over to behance.net/live because that is where I'm going to be reading the chat. That's where I'm going to be posting, or our moderators are going to be posting all of the helpful links and things that you will need to join me today or join for any of the other challenges. And yeah, it's good to see all of you folks. Christelle, welcome in. Good to see you again. Good to have you. Laura, welcome in. It's also great to see you. And you, Colleen, welcome in. All right, so we're going to dive into it today. I'm going to pop over to the landing page and show you folks how to get started with me right quick. If you go to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, you will come to this page. You'll know you're in the right place if it says January 3rd to January 28th. And if you don't see that date at the top, you just have to scroll down to the bottom of the page here to see all of our archived streams. And if you find that January 3rd through 28th, stack here, you will be able to get all of the challenges for this set. Every day, kind of early in the morning Pacific time, we actually unlock a challenge one at a time. Today we're going to be doing the isometric post, which I'm super pumped about. And if you come to this little post, you'll get a description of what we're going to be working on. There's a get started button which you can click to download the starter files, and you can also click watch video if you need to come back and re-watch any portion of this broadcast. You can also click the join us button down here under chat with the community so you can join the Discord and share your work and all of that good stuff. When you hit this get started button, it will take you to a nifty little file that looks something like this, and in here you will also get the description that says make an isometric scene using 3D shapes. Try adding new colors and customizing strokes with the shapes panel. So what we're going to do is create an interesting little scene, and we're technically going to be doing this in 2D. But we're going to try to create an isometric vibe that looks like things are sitting in a 3D space, which I'm pretty excited about. I've seen a lot of posts like this in the past, and I wanted to try my hand at it, and I tried to kind of create the easiest, quickest way that you folks could do the same thing. So this is a challenge that takes a lot of noodling. I'm going to show the basics here, and you folks can take the information and kind of run wild and create something crazy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to hide the info, and I'm going to hide the shapes. You can use the shapes if you want, but I'm going to create shapes from scratch here today. And I'm going to take these colors, and I'm actually going to move my colors up to the top so that I can sample from them easily without needing to hide and unhide layers and all that stuff. I'm going to move the background outside of my challenge 7 group here just by grabbing it and dragging it underneath. And then I'm going to collapse that challenge 7 and jump into it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a graphic or a shape that looks something like roads, like a map almost, something that looks like little streetways and roads and paths leading in 3D space. And the way we're going to do that is with the shape tools and with free transform. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to make some lines. And I like to use the rectangle tool for this because while you could use the line tool to create lines, for me personally, being able to drag out something like this and then make it thinner or larger just like that is actually a lot easier for me. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a line like that. And I am going to, I think, actually fill this to our orange color, which I have sampled here already. So I'm going to go ahead and click orange. And what I'm going to do is just duplicate this a bunch of different ways and directions until I have a flat version of some roads, if that makes sense. So I'm going to Control J to duplicate this, or Command J if you were on a Mac, and then Control or Command T to free transform. I'm going to drag this out over here, maybe set it a little bit offset from the rest, or from the other line that I've got going on here. And I'm going to keep doing this. I'm holding Shift as I rotate my piece so that it snaps straight. And what I'm doing here is I am just placing this in a manner that looks like there are paths leading away from each other, crisscrossing each other, and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to put this one maybe right here. We will get one going over on this side, maybe right there. And I'm going to keep doing this. So let's spend some time kind of creating this little roadway. I actually kind of like the overlap of that right there. And then maybe we will also put one here. Okay. And maybe one last one over this way. Okay. So this is supposed to simulate kind of a flat collection of roads, and I am going to make sure I have my topmost shape that I've created here selected, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottommost shape, hold Shift, and select that one because it will select everything in between. And I'm going to go ahead and click Control G or Command G to group it so that I have all of this all on this in the same group. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to free transform this and do a little bit of a skew. So what I can do if I want is I could make this a smart object, or I could rasterize it. You can do whatever you like. I think that I'm going to actually duplicate this, and I'm just going to call this roads. I'll call this one roads as well. And I'm just going to rasterize it, honestly. Because I'm not going to add a stroke to these shapes per se, not just yet. We're not getting into strokes right off the bat. So I'm just going to say rasterize. Oops, actually I'm going to Control E to merge everything in that group. And then I should be able to, oh, it rasterizes it for me, excuse me. So if you click Control E, which is merge, you can just merge everything that's in whatever group you have selected, which is very quick and easy. And then I'll zoom out here because we're going to free transform it. So I'm going to Control or Command T, and I am going to hold Control and Shift, and I am just going to drag this out to the side. I'm also going to, if I can real quick, hide that. Let me undo that because I need to hide that roads underneath, just so I have some of my original bits there. And I'm going to Control T, hold Shift and Control, and I'm going to skew this. And I am even going to maybe kind of make it a little bit smaller. We will continue to bring this out. I can grab this one here and kind of bring this up. And what I aim to do with this, there we go. That's starting to kind of look, there we go, is kind of make this look like it is on a flat surface. Okay, so we've got roads out here. If we can use our imaginations and really envision this being something that is now laying on a flat plane rather than just a flat graphic in space. So I've got some roads. And the next thing I'm going to do is from these little terminated points here, from these little open-ended pathways, I am actually going to use the shapes and the stroke now to place some shapes that look like little doorways. Okay, so we really are using our imagination here to create this little scene. And it might sound strange, but I think it's going to look really cool. So I'm going to come over here to my rectangle tool. I will bump myself over just in case you can't see this. Right up here on my toolbar, over the zoom tool is my shape tool, and you can click on that, right click on that, and you can grab whichever one of these tools you want. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'll bump myself back over here. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to drag out a rectangle. This is going to be our little doorway, okay? Now you can leave it as a rectangle. I'm thinking that maybe I want this to be some kind of archway, okay? So I'm going to grab that this little dot here, which will allow me to drag and round these corners. And then in my properties panel, which you can access if you go up to window and select the properties panel there, if you don't see it in your layout, I am going to scroll down here and I'm going to make sure that this is unlocked, because this is locking the ratio of every single corner. I want to unlock it, and for these two bottom corners, I'm just going to drag them out to 0, so that only the top two corners are rounded, okay? And then I'm thinking that let's see, we can change this color to something else if we want. We could change it to the green color that we have, and you can sample a color instead of using the recently used. You can sample by clicking that button in the corner there and just selecting either one of these. But I'm going to go with this green for now. I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to make sure that I have a stroke on, and I'm going to sample this orange color so it kind of looks like it's blended in with our streets as we connect it. Now you can add the stroke now, but when you free transform this and skew it in the same way that we skewed our roads, you may notice that the shape of the stroke changes a little bit. But let's go ahead and try it, and then if we need to, we can try another method. I'm gonna change the shape of the width of our stroke here to about 20. I think 20 would work well. And then I'm going to transform it, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and hold Shift and Control and grab this center point here. Actually, I think our stroke will be fine. So I'm gonna hold the center point here, and what I'm gonna do, if I can zoom in, here is I am going to line this up with the same kind of direction as our roadway here, okay? That allows me to kind of keep this in the same perspective. And then we can probably drag this in here. Let's kind of bump that in. I'm holding Shift just to make this a little thinner, okay? And I'm just going to place that right there, okay? So now, if I zoom out, you can see how this is starting to kind of look like that leads into an area, into a space, into a doorway, okay? And I think that I do need to bump it over just slightly like this because I want it to be centered. There we go. That's good enough for me. And with this, you could do one of two things. You could either duplicate this and continue to place these doorways all around, or you could make it a stack similar to the assets that I left for you in this starter file. So if you want this to be a little thicker, kind of a cool way to do this would be to just Command or Control J. Grab this bottommost one here. We can hit Control T, and then we can bump it back if we want. So maybe I'll bump this back until we can see a little bit of the green popping out. In fact, I want to make sure that I count how many times I click that actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, cool. And then what I can do is I can do it again if I want to. Maybe I want this to be a stack of like 4, okay? And I did the wrong one, so let me drag that back underneath. And so I'm just kind of creating like a thicker piece here. And honestly, 3 looks pretty good. We can try it with 4 just to see how thick that makes it. That actually looks pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and group these, all right? I'm going to select all of them and Control or Command G, and I'm going to call this doorway, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing in all of these other areas. So we've got two more little points that we can add a doorway to. We've got one over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this group, and we can drag this one over here. All right. Make sure that that is centered as well as we can get it. And I might make this a little bit larger, or we could make this one smaller, because I also want to convey kind of a 3D space kind of thing, and I think that it would be best if we kind of gave a little size variation, okay? So actually, because our stroke is live, if we make it small, the stroke will stay the same size, but our graphic will not. So what we may do is convert to Smart Object, and then shrink it down. There we go. So then we keep that nice distance between all the little stacks, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter. We've got this one here. They kind of look like tombstones a little bit. You could do rectangles if you wanted to. You don't have to do the archway. You could do half circles if you wanted to, whatever you think would look neat. And I am going to also, let's duplicate this one as well. And I am going to place it over here, and I'm going to convert this one to a Smart Object as well, and I'm going to make it only slightly smaller, okay, because there I want it to be a size and shape that is just in between these two, okay? And then let's grab this. We will Control or Command J, duplicate it, Control T to free transform, and I'm going to flip this horizontal, and I'm going to see if this works as well over here. Yes, it sure does. So I can put this one at the end over here. We will convert that to a Smart Object so that I can resize it properly, and we will shrink it down even smaller than this other one because it's a little more distant than the rest. And then to add kind of an element of more 3D form, what I'm going to do is grab my group here, and I'm going to Control J to duplicate it. We'll Control T to free transform. We will flip this. Let's flip it horizontal. I'm going to convert it to a Smart Object, and then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to have that right here, okay? Just to show, because I feel like if we have this over here kind of coming off of the canvas, then it shows that there's still more roads and things happening off the canvas. It gives the illusion that this scene sort of continues. We could even make it a little bit larger if we wanted, and really put that in the foreground there. So now we have like these roads that lead to doorways, and I think it looks kind of interesting. How would you suggest making the perspective on the doors match the roads so the layers go up instead of down? I am actually moving it to the left and right. And when I first did this, I thought maybe I needed to move it to the side and up or down, but it kind of gave me this strange descending or ascending stair kind of vibe, which I did not like. So when I stacked these, I actually used my left and right arrow keys just to bump it to the side. And it kind of gives it, because you're seeing this in a 3D space now, it kind of gives it the illusion that maybe this leftmost piece and this rightmost piece might be higher or lower than one another, but they're actually on the exact same center line. Yeah, it's kind of an isometric graveyard. It's kind of strange. Isn't distance negated in isometric? In some instances, I've seen some kind of like artsy, interesting ways, like in video games, for example, where isometric designs can be very flat. Everything is the exact same distance and same perspective, the same size, no matter where they are. However, I think when you do isometric in 3D, when you start to look and rotate and move and observe things, there are going to be things that are closer to the camera than not, and adding a little bit of that perspective, I think, adds a little bit of spice to it. But if you don't want to do it that way, if you would prefer to do things a little bit differently, go ahead, try it. So now we've got our doorways, and I think what we're going to do also is I'm going to go ahead and group all of these together and call these doors. I am going to add maybe a sky. I don't know if it's going to be a sky or if it's going to be like the top of a box. You can really kind of interpret this however you want, but I'm going to use my polygonal lasso tool. And I am going to follow very slightly the shape of the topmost roads here. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to go like that, and then I'm going to come in like so, and then I'm going to go up, okay? And so the roads that I'm speaking of are like right here. So we have this line, we have this line, this one coming over here, which I guess there's not a line here, but we can kind of imagine. And then we have this line that goes directly off of the canvas. And I'm going to sample my blue color, and I'm going to throw that in right there. And now what we can do is we can come in with a brush, and we can start to add some kind of shading, shadows, and really make this look like it's in a 3D space. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect with Control D. And underneath all of these things, I'm going to call this sky actually. Underneath all of these things, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to use my polygonal lasso tool again to select little areas that I can shade. So I'm going to click here and then go straight down. I'm going to come over here with it, okay, and go ahead and connect it there. Press B in my keyboard to access my brush, and I'm going to grab just your standard soft round brush, okay? And I'm going to grab, let's turn our colors on again. Where did our colors get to? I think it's in here. There we go. I am going to select maybe this orange color could work. And I'm going to make my brush large, and I'm just going to go ahead and click. Okay, I'm just clicking. And we can also, if we want to, turn this on a dissolve layer, okay, which I think will look pretty cool. I can make another layer, also set it to dissolve, and I could grab some of this dark color and kind of add a little bit of darker shade there if I wanted to, maybe a little bit more of our orange, since I like that pretty well. And then I'm going to merge this, and when you merge two layers that are on dissolve, if I go like this, Control E, then it kind of evens out here. And I think that that's a little bit harsh because I used that darker color, but what I can do is I can turn it on a lower opacity if I want. And we can do the very same thing over here. So if I grab my polygonal lasso tool, make a new layer, I can click, hold shift to make this kind of a straight line. We can come over here, and this isn't 100% perfect as far as how I have lined this up, because I just kind of winged it because we don't have a lot of time to change everything here today. But hopefully when you folks do this, you can spend a little more time making sure like the top of this sky or the top of this building or whatever it happens to be in your mind lines up a little bit better with these roads. And same thing, I'm going to hit my B on my keyboard, and I'm going to turn this to dissolve, make a new layer, and I'll hit B, or hit dissolve again, and I'll go ahead and merge these. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to create some kind of shading that starts to show that these are planes rather than empty space. And as you kind of do, you see how that kind of starts to create a 3D effect here. We could even do this on the sky. So if I hold Control and click the sky shape here, it will select it. I can go into a new layer, and I can grab maybe this dark color, and I can, from this area, let me hide my colors, from this area I can add some of that purple. We'll put that on dissolve, make a new layer. We will add some more purple, okay, and then put that on dissolve as well, and then I will merge it and then deselect, and you can start to see how all of this starts to look like 3D. And what I would probably do, honestly, this is a little strange here with this doorway not really aligning to this wall, is I would probably change the shape of the sky just slightly so that it looks like this doorway is actually on the side of this, because now it's starting to look like there's a building there. But it's pretty cool. It's very easy to kind of start creating a scene like this, and I don't have enough time to really put some serious detail on this because we're running out of time. But I hope that you enjoyed this little walkthrough of kind of an interesting way to create a 3D isometric-esque scene. I can't wait to see what you folks make, and I can't wait to see what colors you choose if you decide to choose different colors. But I do have to take off. We're at the end of our time here. This has been a blast. Much love, everyone. Happy designing, and I will see you tomorrow morning.